Hello. So yesterday I was having a talk with a friend. It's lovely to catch up. And this is a spiritually minded friend, so we got to have one of those wonderful conversations where we're both kind of just getting intuitive hits off of, what each other says and sharing, and just to lift us into higher awareness on whatever topics we were hitting on. And I revealed to myself something that I have to work through. Love when that happens. So on top of all the nice, enjoyable conversation, I also got a gift out of it. So let's see. What I revealed to myself was, so I talk about the newer, like transitioning from the old way of relating into this way where we're not having expectations of each other. And it's interesting, actually, as I'm saying that, I'm realizing, I wonder if why I harp on that a bit is because I still have this. The feeling of not living up to others' expectations. It hasn't been causing me like emotional distress, but it's been living in there as part of my motivation for being productive. And eventually when it gets my attention, it's like interfering with my want to have fun, which I know is just as important. I know that the joys of life are just as important as, my work or, anything along those lines. So I was thinking, yeah, it makes sense. I acknowledge that I do have something in here that is concerned with the feeling of not living up to others' expectations. And boy, if I look at it like that, it has definitely caused me to do a bunch of dumb shit. Like, when I say dumb shit, I just mean like stuff that I wouldn't do if I wasn't concerned with that. Not necessarily dumb shit. Nothing like, the thing is, it's more like keeping me in the box than letting me free of it, It's like, probably stemming from when I was a girl and, punishments. Basically, right? What it comes down to is, you didn't do what you're expected to do. You are punished. I am displeased with you. And I don't know if you've ever heard me say it, but up to the age of 40, having my mother displeased of me was like the worst feeling in the world for me. I laugh because it's just so silly, right? But I was that, like, in the box. I was that controlled by the want for my mother's approval, which, by the way, I could never get. Not to the degree I wanted it. The most I could get was, like, her not being displeased with me. But I can only remember one time where my mother was actually expressive about being proud of me. And it was when I helped her with something she didn't expect me to help her with. And I used some intelligence that I have, and she was like, wow, I knew you were really smart. And I just remember that moment, even though it was years ago now, because it stood out amongst a whole lifetime of not that. So, excuse me, even though she knew it, she had never mentioned it to me or, and hasn't since. And that's fine, that's her operating system, and I'm not trying to dig on her or say that she's awful or lesser or wasn't a good mom for these reasons at all. I'm just saying, like, the old paradigm. That's what she grew up in. That's what was passed down to me. That's what we experienced together. So it makes sense. But one of the remnants of that is this little girl part of me feeling like bad about not, or worried about not living up to the expectations that I know people have of me. And one of those expectations blatantly was that I couldn't live up to it, which was like, you grow up, you go to college, you get a career, you get married, you have kids. It's like I did it way different than that. I dropped out of college 3 times in my lifetime. I had kids out of wedlock. Excuse me, I've never been married. And I have worked at lots of different jobs and lost many of them and sometimes couldn't keep up and been homeless and definitely couldn't follow the prescribed what's expected of us as U.S. citizens. And of course there's an argument for, well, just practically speaking, you have to be able to support yourself, so you at least got to do a few of those things. It's like, yeah, I get it. I know. But what I'm saying is I've had the experience of blatantly not being able to live up to those expectations. And so I think like I had to surrender that and let go. But what I didn't do was go back in time and sort of like be with the part of me that felt some things about that, the younger version of me, right? Because even when I got a bit older and had to surrender the idea that I would ever live up to those expectations, I was an adult version and I was in survival. So someone's in survival is not healing. It's a process of adapting whenever you're in survival. So I adapted and I never dealt with the actual hurt part of me. What it boils down to is conditional love. If you have expectations of me and you're my mother and I cannot live up to those, and I know you will be disapproving or disappointed, maybe even angry, maybe frustrated, maybe burdened by the fact that you have to do something that I couldn't do, that you wanted me to do. All of these type things, excuse me, affected me in the feelings department because I took that on, wrongly, but from the child perspective that I was in, I took that on as something that it meant something about me and my worth and my abilities, yeah, and my freedom to be who I am. So I guess that it's like a shame. It's a shame that lives there that says, you couldn't be what you were meant to be. But it's like, oh, actually, I can be what I'm meant to be. I just can't be what you thought I should be. And if then the love that you feel and have towards me is limited because of that, which it doesn't directly translate. Someone being frustrated doesn't mean that they don't love us. But as a child version of me, I may have made those type of interpretations, right? So I internalized whatever the feelings were that my mother was having. I internalized that as my fault, I'm the cause, things like that. So it was obviously a misunderstanding. But the child version of me only had that ability to make sense of the situation she was in, given the context and given what was actually the example that I had, right? The example that I had was that's what my parents would do too. They would internalize somebody else's disapproval of them, right? So this is what had been passed on in the line, and probably a lot of families are like this, right? Where you're expected to behave this way, and if you don't, everybody's kind of mad at you. So I'm acknowledging that. Well, let's look at the valid way. I'm acknowledging that it didn't feel good, that I had a misunderstanding, but I really did have it, and I really internalized the feelings of not living up to the expectations of those around me. And not just my mother, not just my family members, but even society as a whole, or anyone else that there were landlords that had let down sometimes in my earlier years. There were bosses sometimes, right? Like I'm having a mental breakdown because all the traumas of my past are weighing on me, but they really expected me to show up for work. I had an important position that like who else was going to do it if I couldn't be there? So like those people expected me to live up to that, and that wasn't inappropriate for them to do. But these are just examples of times where, you know, my coping mechanism was to adapt out of it and maybe suppress and deny it, because this was a feeling that's lived in me all this time that I haven't yet fully been present with. Okay. Maybe for little times, like maybe when I disappointed a boss in a job, maybe I felt it a little bit, but I've not gone to the core of this yet because I recognized it there in my talk yesterday. All right. So validating that, I feel bad because I thought that it meant something about me. I thought that I needed the approval of my mother and everybody else. And I didn't know that it would have been more caring and loving of them to try to understand me than to judge me. But they did judge me. And they did not have the capacity to look beyond how it affected them, and to care about what I was going through in those moments where I wasn't living up to their expectations. Because those were difficult moments for me. Those were difficult experiences that I went through. It was hard to try to do something and then not be able to do it. It doesn't always feel great. Even though I've worked a lot now on trying to be free of any negative feelings about failure or trial and error ways of learning. Excuse me. So it's valid that I would hold on to discomfort around not living up to the expectations of others. And I accept that I have felt bad and wanted to avoid it and been burdened by it. I accept that that's been there with me all this time. And I can be present with feelings about not living up to others' expectations. Like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I feel bad. Yeah, I really wanted to, and I just couldn't. And that sucks. And see if I can tap into any shame. I don't know if I will be able to. Yeah, shame's one that I sat in the bathtub for weeks with and cried out for days. It's hard for me to access shame because I've so fully processed it. So, is there any more in there? I'm trying to think of all the bad things I've ever done that I should have done better to try to evoke shame in me. Um, but honestly, just the thought of having disappointed my own children, not living up to the expectations that they would have naturally and rightfully of a mother, you know, yeah, that's one that one can evoke some emotion in me. Sucks. It sucks real bad. It's like so frustrating, and anger and fear that if I can't do it, we'll die. Like it's a serious thing. It's a serious offense to not be able to step up into what was expected of me as a mother. To just stay afloat, to manage my emotions, to not be dysregulated and to have rational thoughts and to be practical and to care about them more than my own misery and pain at times. I failed at all of those things a bit here and there over in the past. And later, when I had lost custody of them, which seems like the natural next step when I've described all the ways that I failed for first, right? But when I lost custody of them, just like the societal expectation that a mother would be the one taking care of her children, that that too, something that I carried shame about. That's one of the main things that I had to cry out in the bathtub when I sat with shame, because it was a big one, and people wouldn't understand. Like, to me, it was like I had no other choice. I really didn't know anything else to do because I was literally living in trauma, in a traumatized state with crappy coping mechanisms. I didn't know. Yeah, was I selfish? Yeah, because I was in survival mode and I couldn't see past any of the wounding that I had and the coping mechanisms that I had. And like, it all seemed very serious. Back then, emotions were huge for me. I was ruled by them and they were out of fucking control and they felt bigger than me. And, that's not the case today, but like, it took a lot for me to get here. It took a lot of being brave and being with all those uncontrolled, crazy emotions that I had been trying to push away, and that built up so much resistance in me that, when the floodgates opened, I crumbled. But I was that scared of it for so long. It just felt like this big pain. And, part of that is that it was an ancestral inheritance. It did have the weight of my whole family line behind it, you know? And I am a sensitive soul, like, with all this kind of like, yeah, I guess sensitivity is the only word I can really use that fits. But like, I feel stuff. I know everyone feels stuff, and I don't know if I feel stuff more than other people feel stuff because I'm not them feeling it, right? But I just know that, like, if there was a gradient scale, I probably would be on the more sensitive side, right? Because, like, I'm picking up on certain things, right? But there's definitely a part of me that would get overwhelmed picking up on everything, so I tend to repress or suppress some things or just kind of push them to the background so that I don't have to be overwhelmed. And this was one of those things for a long time, but then I kind of dealt with it, and now I'm just kind of seeing there's some remnants. So this is me, like, rambling through the remnants of this thing, right? This thing about, because worrying about not living up to other people's expectations also means that I won't step out of the box and I won't venture in the way my heart desires if it will shock and awe people. If they will be like, that's not what I expected her to do. You know, it's like, I'm not here for them. I'm not here for that. I'm really not. I'm here, excuse me. I'm here to experience this, like, the world as my canvas for what I am. If I were paint, it's just like put my paint on the canvas, but definitely not pour it. Gosh, that's a peeve of mine. Those art projects where people are just like pouring paint on things and like spinning it or swirling it. And it's like, I mean, I get that that's fun, but that seems like playing more than art. I mean, yes, it makes art, but like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of skill there. Some of them, I guess, but depending on, anyway, something about wasting the paint and like the mess and like, but probably I should release that because it's free expression. It's not hurting anyone. Is it not hurting anyone? I don't know. I have a thing about paint too. It's like, is paint good for the environment and stuff? Like, should we be using so much paint? I was watching something and someone commented that a celebrity had released a balloon into the air, and that a bunch of commenters were ragging on the celebrity about releasing balloons. And I'm like, wow, that's really different from a handful of years ago when I was trying to tell people that it was bad to release balloons in the air. And no one cared or listened. I'm like, oh, now it's a thing and people understand and know it. That's great. Because, like, yeah. And you know what? Besides balloons is bad for the environment? Fireworks. Like, what the fuck? You're just gonna, like, light fireworks off in the middle of the lake and, like, completely litter the lake with the remnants of the fireworks? But, you know, I am reminded of this time where I was having this conversation with someone. She's a woman who is older than me, and I loved her attitude about it. She's like, you know, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? Like, and it's like, yeah, that's true. And so then it's like, well, you know, there's plenty of things that I'm doing that aren't the best, right? That if I was living green, I wouldn't be doing them. So I have a footprint here on Earth, right? And I do feel conscious of it, right? Like I do, like that's one of the things that I'm grappling with as I downsize my belongings. I'm like, I really don't have the energy to like sort and distribute these to people who can use them. Even bringing them to the thrift store feels so overwhelming because they, sometimes they'll turn away the stuff depending on the thrift store, and other times it's like you can only drop off 3 boxes at a time or something like this. And part of me just wants to like, I need to do this in a sweep because otherwise I get stalled on the project and whatnot. And so then then I just don't do it. But part of me then goes like, I could just take a garbage bag through this house, go into all the like cabinets that I haven't opened in a while, and just throw everything away. Like, fuck it. But then I'm like, oh, well, that's so wasteful. So I've got myself in a little juggernaut about my belongings and this like want to be a good human and a good inhabitant of Earth and not contribute to the taxation of her. So it behooves me to pay attention to my own backyard, so to speak, than worry about the people who are releasing balloons and doing fireworks at this point anyway, you know? Like I don't usually go to firework displays. I have as a family event, not in many years now, but around 4th of July is the anniversary of my father's death. And it's also when I got burned by fireworks as a child, the anniversary of that as well. And so fireworks are just not that appealing to me. You know, even since being a child and being burned with them, I've been around idiots who have been drunk and playing with fireworks. And I think like, God, I hate incompetent people. And yet, here I am just having told you a whole bunch of ways where I was incompetent. As a mother, that's the most important job there is. So I can't expect other people to value the same things that I value, understand the same things I understand, care about the same things I care about. All I have control over is me. And so, I feel like I'm just like going along this energy line of caring and about people's expectations and not caring about people's expectations, right? And I feel like I'm like setting like little explosives along the line, and I'm ready to blow it up here from both angles. Just talking about this, you know what I mean? I don't know if you know what I mean. Maybe a bad analogy. Yeah. So the feeling of not living up to others' expectations in the way of being productive, specifically, though. All right. So what happened when I wasn't productive? Oh my gosh. Ooh, ooh. I can remember getting my mom's yelling at me or disapproval because I was sent to my room to clean my room, and then she came to check and there was no progress. I did not live up to her expectations and being productive. Hmm. We had way too many toys. You know what I mean? Like, because the fact that we could have such a mess in our rooms as children tells me there's way too many fucking toys, right? Like, you got a toy box completely full of toys and shelves full, and like, the fact that when cleaning my room would be like such a thing that it would take days, and there would be all kinds of tears and knowing that I was disappointing my mother, and it was just too much. It was overwhelmed. Oh my God, that's the same thing I feel about emptying out my place where I live, right? Oh, oh, oh my God, I'm reliving the childhood experience of being told to clean my room. Oh my God. There's another nugget. Okay. Acknowledging, validating. Yeah, it was very overwhelming. There was too much stuff. And we loved the stuff, right? We loved to get the gifts and hand-me-downs, or however we got them. That's usually the two ways. So we had older cousins who would hand down stuff, and then we would get a lot of new toys. My aunt was a giver. She's still a giver to this day in her life. But and she would often give to us. So it's valid to feel overwhelmed by too much stuff, and no one like sat with me and taught me how to do it, or like no one was doing it with me. It was just like, here, you're sitting in a mountain of mess, do it. And I wouldn't say my house is a mountain of mess right now, but like I haven't made my bed. It's okay. I actually had to clear my desk before I did it. Oh, I don't know if I could show you tank top I just took off. I don't know if I can turn this the whole way. I was going to try to show you some clutter, and it would just be like my laundry, which was just the clothes I took off yesterday, but all right there. And then like my shelf has one shelf of stuff that like I don't know where to put that. And then like on my kitchen counter, I've got some things where I was like, I don't know where to put those, So there's like little clutter clusters. So it's not a disaster like my childhood bedroom, but it kind of simulates that. It's the adult version of that. And the fact that haven't made my bed, right? Like I do not make my bed neatly every day, but I at least usually cover where I was. So I don't know what happened today. I usually just throw the covers up to like cover where I sleep and my pillows. But I didn't do that today. Today's been a different kind of day. I got woken up. Anyway, whatever. Woken up by phone calls by my son in the middle of the night and blah, 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 blah. So it was a weird day. But anyway, back to my issue of being stuck and stagnant with, as a child, it was valid for me to feel overwhelmed. I didn't have anyone to do it with. I didn't know where to start. It felt like too much, and it felt like no matter what I did, I wasn't going to, like, it's just like a mystery to me on where I would put this. Okay? These are quartz. I've put them in this empty flaxseed container or coconut flour container, right? I might need them someday. I've literally had them all. I had them in something else before, but I've had them all for years without using them. 6 years without using them. Like, is that enough to just throw them away? What if I need them? I went into my spare room yesterday because I was like, oh, I need a couple pieces of wood to prop up this shelf because I got some organizers for my cards and they will fit under this shelf if I just give myself a few inches. And I was like, I have little pieces of wood that I can put under the shelf on both sides to lift it. That'll be perfect. Went in my spare room. It's one of the things I already got rid of. Had these pieces of wood for a year or more. In my decluttering process, I am like, yeah, I'll get rid of that. Yeah, I thought, oh, I can get rid of these. They're just little scrap pieces of wood. What would I need them for? Well, guess what? I needed them now. So now I've got 2 bottles of lotion. $20 bottles of lotion, 2 of them. So that's $40 worth of lotion is holding up my shelf. So that I can organize my cards. Because they were the right size that, and I couldn't find anything else because I threw away my wood. And like, this has happened before too, where I donated one of my dry erase boards. It was a nice one. And then I needed it. And there's just been a few things like that where I donate it and then I need it. Or I gave away some tulle. It's like a fabric that's like airy, right? And then I knew something that I needed it for, and I was like, I already gave it away. So this is part of what is making it complicated for me to get organized, because while I'm holding on to things in case I need them, I'm not needing them. But when I get rid of them, I'm also manifesting reasons that I actually did need them after I got rid of them, which is the fear that I have, right? The fear I have is I will get rid of that and then I will need it. So I've literally been creating that in my reality. Holy shit. That was really good for me to realize. Yeah. My fear has been the thing I'm living out in my reality. Now, just to be fair, as far as reality goes, the one I'm creating, it's pretty benevolent, right? Like, if the worst thing I'm dealing with is that I don't have the pieces of wood to prop up my shelf to make it look nicer and more organized under there with my organizers under there. If that's the worst worry of my day, it's like, not so bad, It's a pretty good life. I've done a lot of work to get it to this point but it's like now my manifestations are coming in so quick that it's based on even the fears that I have. Oh my gosh, so I'm probably manifesting that I'm disappointing people and not living up to their expectations. Well, guys, it's just what it is. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. But yeah, Because it's my fear, it's likely that I'm manifesting it. Dang. Okay. So let me finish the first one where I was talking about being the little girl in the room, and then I'll go to the next one about the fear of getting rid of stuff. Okay, so I accept that I feel overwhelmed like the little girl in the room that is tasked with cleaning everything up. And then acknowledge how that feels. Oh, I feel sad. I feel alone. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm a failure already before I even start. I feel like I don't know what to do. I feel, oh my God, I feel like even if I do it, I'm going to do it wrong. Yes, because that was a common issue with my mother, that when I did do something, I usually still got a complaint about it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, that taps into it. I could not live up to her expectations. That's what it was. I could not. So even when I was doing the thing I was supposed to do, it wasn't good enough. Like the part of me wants to just scream at her, like a fuck you scream, like just like a ah. Okay, let's see if there's any more of those feelings in there. Yeah, now I feel the compassion, and now I'm like, oh, she's just got anger. She's just got something brewing in her that's like just not happy. It's not mine. And it's sad because if she treats me that way, then we can never be connected because I'm just the source of her disappointment. I'm the place where she projects on her not good enough. Wow, that's kind of heavy. I feel it, right? Like the projection. I just became aware of the projection, the energy coming towards me, and for whatever reason, it's one that I'd let in. It's one that I'd let in because it matched me. I had to, it was me too, right? It was a match to it. But now that I'm not, right? Like now that I just was present with that and neutralized the energy, I can literally feel the heaviness of that projection coming towards me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, you know what it is? It's like, yeah, it's like a mother. I'm going to say a mother because I don't want to say that this is how my mother will always be, right? I don't want to brand her with this as a spell. But I'm just going to give the example like this then. It's a mother who feels lacking and who won't allow herself to feel the lacking, so she projects it upon her children, and it's her children that are suffering and lacking. And that's how she sees them. That's why she doesn't have compliments for them. That's why she doesn't have presence and connection with them, because they are the place where her discomfort with herself lands, because she's not willing to feel it. All right, let's see if I've done this to my children. I haven't. Oh, thank God I haven't. Because I wouldn't want to do that to them. So what have I been doing instead, right? Like, because if I'm not doing that, I might be doing a lot to avoid doing that. I think my adaptation was really close to what I would want, what I would naturally do anyway, which is just see them in the highest light. And so yeah, I think just seeing them in the highest light will be like effortless, you know? Whereas it's usually been pretty effortless, but sometimes I would have to remind myself, okay, this is a person doing their best, blah, 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 right? All right. Whew. Okay. Now, the other thing was, the fear of getting rid of something that I'm going to need. Okay, so I acknowledge that. Now, it's a valid fear. It's valid for me to feel this fear because this is what my mother modeled to me. My mother has drawers and cabinets and sheds full of stuff that she might need. This is what's been modeled to me. This is what I have adopted as well. And this is what I have lived out because I was programmed with it as well. So, it's valid that I would adopt this way of being. I accept that I've been living with this way of being, which is a fear that I will not have what I need. That if I get rid of something, it wouldn't be good because I will need it. And how does that make me feel? It makes me feel like clingy to my stuff, right? It makes me feel like, oh, I need these. Like, it makes me feel really safe in a way that I'm surrounded by stuff that I might need, and I have it. Like, chances are I got it. But it also makes me feel weighed down. It can make me sometimes feel frustrated when I need a thing, I know I have it, and I can't find it. It obviously manifests these times when I get rid of things that I actually do need later. And it keeps me out of the flow state. Okay. So what it does is it keeps me in the lack mentality. There's not enough. I'm not enough. The universe can't provide for me when I need it. That this isn't a divine orchestration that will allow me to obtain the things I need when I need them, that I don't need to hoard things. It's greed. Oh, it's greed. It's greed because other people could be using those things. It's greed because it acts like I need to hold on to something that I don't actually need in the moment. Yeah, because that fear would even make me hesitant to give something that I had because what if I need it then? Because I used to be willing to give, and then I would find that, oh, I gave that away and now I need it. So it even makes me fearful of giving. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be fearful of giving because I know, right? Logically, my knowledge knows that if I'm in the flow state, I will have what I need when I need it. I can trust that. I know that without a doubt in my mind at all. And that has happened. When I'm living in flow state and I'm following my inner urge and my curiosities, my intuition, I will be gifted or led to what I need when I need it. All the time, every time. There's absolutely no need for me to live with this fear, which is making me feel lack, heavy, greedy. It's hard for me to tap into emotion about this. So I think the emotion was rooted in the other thing. So this is more of just an acknowledgement. So I'm not going to worry too much that I don't have any real feelings associated with it, but let me try to tap into one by thinking of a time that I gave something away that I actually needed. And how did that feel? Oh, that made me feel regret and lack and like frustration and and longing and like I don't have enough. It perpetuated the fear. It's basically like going through life pedaling the bike in the wrong gear. It's like, oh, well, you could just switch gears, right, to flow, and it'd be a nice, easy trip. But you've been trying to pedal in this like low gear, and it's just harder because you got to work, or you think that you got to work for it, when really you got to surrender the fear. Okay, being present with the feeling of like, I gave it away and now I need it. There's no tears associated with it. It doesn't make me like that. I'm just like, yeah. It's like frustration or something like. All right, and I just came around to, okay, I feel happy that these experiences gave me the opportunity to see this in myself and release it, and that whether I gave something to someone and they used it or not, or found it useful or not, like sometimes just the act of giving to someone is how they feel loved, right? Some people have that love language, even though I don't really believe necessarily in love languages. Um, but so whatever purpose it served, I may not be aware of it, but even doing that and having this experience was part of the divine orchestration, right? Because I got to see that the world is so responsive even to the fears that I have lodged in me, that I will live those out too. I will live out my program, whatever it may be. So all this like phlegm that you keep hearing me cough is because I had some pizza yesterday and it had gluten in it, and that's just what happened. So it was kind of like this last hurrah. I was saying to God, universe, the other day, I was like, I tried a lot of different things here, and my body just, even if I'll lose like 10 pounds, my body wants to go right back to that certain weight that it's been staying at. And it's really frustrating me because like I am putting in a lot of effort. I'm exercising every day, not overeating. I'm only eating when I'm hungry. I'm eating good things, healthy things. I'm not overeating. And I just said, God, what is it? What? Tell me. And part of it could just be like I'm older now and my hormones have changed. And so whereas I knew how to lose weight before, it might be different now, right? Like, so, short of like literally starving myself and not eating any food for extended periods of time, I haven't done that. Like, I've gone, 30 hours or whatever, fasts like that, but I've not gone like a week without eating. So I probably would lose some weight then, but the thing is, as soon as I start eating again, it would probably put me right back up to that weight, and it would be like all that pain for nothing. After 11 days, your hunger does subside. I know that because I've fasted for that long before, for more than that. After 11 days, hunger subsides. So, anyways, all this to say that I got a notification of like, I think it was in my feed on Instagram or something, an Ayurvedic quiz where it's offering to tell me which dosha my energy is. And the dosha is the categorization of how the energy works in the body, and which also dictates how the metabolism and the digestion work. And so I was like, all right, I'll take this quiz. I look, I see the category that I am. It's, I read something where it says it's pronounced kapha, but it looks like it's kapha. But so this kapha category that I am, if you have an excess of the kapha energy, the result is this. No, the result is like just pretty much most of the symptoms that I've been having, which is just like weight gain, the excess mucus, like phlegm or whatever, inflammation, And it basically talks about which foods are good for balancing this out and which foods to avoid. And, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is how I used to eat before I let gluten and sugar back in and dairy. Like I said, because sometimes I'll eat cheese on tacos or crackers or something, right? So I've let all that stuff back in, and all that's on the no list for this dosha, of eating. So I've kind of realized, okay, I really do know how to do this. It's just that I haven't been willing to give up some of these more, processed foods yet. And, it's like sharing a pizza with my kids. It's like a fun thing we do, right? Like we're having a little adventure and okay, let's get a pizza because I like to feed them and, and we're out and about and it's like, I don't know. So anyway, we got the pizza yesterday and I just looked at it like as my little last hurrah where before I give up the gluten completely again and the sugar and all of that. So got the phlegm, forgive my talking about phlegm and saying it again and again, but I've got that going on now as a result of the last hurrah of pizza with my kids. It was a good pizza, but I'll be okay with missing it, Some of the foods that I'm meant to eat are like astringent and bitter. foods. So, I've just been thinking about that, and it's like, oh yeah, lettuce is like my favorite food. I love lettuce, and lettuce can be bitter sometimes. And so I was like, okay, this makes sense, right? Like what it's saying is good for my type to eat are the foods that I really do actually enjoy. Even though there's a part of me that has enjoyed sugar and like creamer. I use non-dairy creamer in my coffee. You can drink coffee, but it needs to be black. And I'm like, oh, no, I'll just give up coffee. I don't like that bitter. Can't be that bitter. So, but maybe there's some like fine gourmet coffees that don't taste as bitter. Maybe that's something I'll find out. But I only like to drink decaf anyway, and I think there's a process that like you have to do to decaffeinate beans, and I don't know if that's really good for me. So I might just give up coffee and just go with like chai tea. And it says that I should be drinking warm liquids. Sometimes I do really like cold water, but it's saying warmer room temperature is better. I'm like, all right, try it for a while, right? What the heck? And I can still have honey. So there's, for anything sweet that I'm wanting, I can use honey. Excuse me. And peaches. Like, I'm not supposed to go for sour fruits. So, like, that's a lot of the fruits. No bananas, no pineapples, no citrus, and I'm like, oh, wow. But peaches are good. It also says that I can be eating corn, and corn's something that I don't usually eat, like tortillas or, things like that. But this says it's okay, so I'll try a little bit of it and see how it goes. And yeah, so I'm just going to try this Ayurvedic way of eating and see how it does. I mean, I came across this information once, long time ago. I wasn't necessarily following it. I was just like having an awareness of it. But now I'm going to just see about taking it more seriously. Continue exercising, make these few changes to the way that I eat, and maybe next time I won't be coughing and blowing my nose next time we talk, maybe. And I won't be drinking this coffee with creamer anymore either. So, like, maybe that's another part that I should look at, right? The part of me that's like, oh, I know what I could do or should do to take care of myself, but I'm not going to do it. Maybe tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. It's like, what's that? Let's look at that. Okay. So I know there's something that I should be doing, that I could be doing, to take care of myself just a little bit better. Maybe even a lot better. And I put it off to the next day. What's that? Acknowledging that, validating that. Why is that a valid thing to do? Well, I know that when I cut out certain things, there are cravings that go along with it. And sometimes not satisfying my cravings can feel uncomfortable or frustrating or challenging, right? So I think it's valid that I don't want to be in that discomfort or challenged space, right? I mean, it's not very adult, but I understand why I'm doing it, right? Can I accept that I've been doing this? Yeah, I've been doing this. I've been putting it off to the next day. I'm procrastinating. Yeah. Because that's what it does feel like, a procrastination. Like it's like while I'm doing it, I know I'll get to it. I just haven't done it yet. It's like the person who's going to quit smoking or quit drinking, or ask their boss for a raise. It's like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to ask that person out. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it someday. It's like, well, what if someday never comes? Why am I wasting one more day? When I started on this journey to healing, one of the first things I came across was the need to be self-loving. And I cried and I was like, oh my God, I want someone else to love me. That's the whole point. I can't, I don't want to have to be the one to do it. And I don't even know how to do it, right? But I was like, well, I came across something that basically said, like, if you, like, the time's going to pass anyway. So you can take the steps and get there eventually, or you can not take the steps, the time will have passed and you won't have made any progress. And I was like, oh, when you put it that way, I guess I'll just at least take the steps. So it's like one step at a time, like one step in front of the other, right? So I already know that it makes sense not to put it off. So why am I wasting even one day, you know? I'm gonna dump this fucking coffee out. All right, so yeah, I'm validating, and that's probably something that was also modeled to me, you know, not to put the blame anywhere else. I don't really need to in this case, because, like, but I'm sure this is a pattern that I picked up. Okay, so I accept that I have this. I do this. I've been doing this. Oh my God, I've been doing this on a lot of things, even the decluttering. Yep, yep. Even like sometimes if my place gets a little cluttered in this area, because this area I like to have clear, right? Because my bed's here, feng shui, and sleeping with clutter and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes it'll be like the third day and I haven't cleaned it up. And, you know, it's like, why? Like, it takes 2 seconds to clean this area. Why even live a day in the clutter if you know it bothers you so much? That's, you know, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like, yeah. So I accept that my level of self-care has been lacking in these ways, especially. And how does it feel to know that the only person that can take care of me has been choosing, oh my God, choosing to do it later? That's like my mother, right? Like, that's the perception that I had sometimes, you know, because it wasn't like physical neglect, but it was emotional neglect. And my mother, you know, was treated that way as well. This is a passed on ancestral thing. But if you're one of 11 children, chances are, you know, your parents aren't checking in with you every day about how you're feeling or who you are as a person. Well, I mean, it'd be nice if they were, but you know what I mean. So anyway, this was passed along, yeah, that the only person who can care about me and take care of me is putting it off till later. Oh my gosh. Ooh. How does it feel? How did it feel when it was done to me? Oh my God, it feels bad. Feels like matter. I'll pause you for a moment. Okay, I forgot what I was doing. I was feeling a feeling, right? Feeling how it felt to, oh, to put off self-care or to have that done to me is actually the feeling that's anchoring it in there. So even if I'm the one who's doing it now, it was done before. So yeah, feeling unimportant, feeling uncared for. These are simply the results of being in a family where there was a cluster B personality disorder or alcoholic or narcissism. That's what this is. It's the feeling of a child being emotionally neglected. And it's not like even like, you know, my family line was like, oh, I'm just going to not care about this kid because I'm selfish. No, it was like not even known, or it was not even in the awareness that this was a coping mechanism that was being passed down, passed down, passed down. And what it was coping with was a feeling of not being fulfilled or cared for. And it was just perpetuated, right? Because it was in the energy, it was being lived out and passed along. So this is an ancestral inheritance. Oh my gosh. I mean, I just had this sadness come over me for the feeling of like my whole string of ancestors having experienced this. Just not feeling cared about. And not feeling cared about really does go back to that first thing that I was mentioning that I wanted to address in myself, which is the feeling of not living up to someone's expectations. Because if someone has expectations of you, what would replace that if they didn't have them? It would just be care. Care and presence replaces expectations. Oh, care and presence replaces expectations. Oh my gosh, and how beautiful. This was a nice thing I was talking about with my friend yesterday. How beautiful is it to just like come into an experience with somebody and just be present in it and ready to have it. No, come what may, whatever it may be, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. You know? Sometimes you really need someone that's kind of like has this awareness to speak to. I mean, not always, As you know, I've been working to build bridges between the old ways of relating and the new ways so that I don't feel burdened or exclusionary towards people who are still relating it in this old way. But it had been a while. Like the last time I spoke to someone who was spiritually minded was my conversations with Kelly, and it had been a while because I had been in this space of like, well, I came down with something, was going through purging, and it was also just busy living, just living, and been really focused in on enjoying living, like I don't want to get to the end and be like, wait, I didn't do it yet. Yeah, I guess just feeling this like, wow, I'm like almost 50. Like, wow, that's a lot. I mean, when I plan to live on till I'm age 200, it's not that much, but it's still a lot. And I think I wouldn't have even realized or felt like it was a lot if not for my vanity. With my looks kind of fading, and that just like it's just different now, right? Like my body's changed, right? Like I used to be able to lose weight just like that, and now it's like a little bit more difficult. And I've just realized, wow, some things are changing. Like in 1 year, the texture of my skin changed. Like before this past year, my skin was always very soft and like just felt youthful or whatever. And just in the past year, I've felt like just it feels a little bit different. So that's why I invested in this really expensive good lotion. And it is really good. That's why I have 3 bottles now. Because I just tried it and it was really good. I'll show it to you. Hold on. It's this Medix 5.5. It's really good. It's like close to the pH of skin, of neutral, and the pH is close to neutral. That's what I meant to say. And yeah, it just absorbs nicely. And after one use, my skin just like changed dramatically. So I didn't really get it from my face, but sometimes when there's too much on my hands, I'll just rub it on my face. It's mostly for the rest of my body. Really, really good stuff, though. 444 milliliters. Interesting. Vitamin E, aloe vera, and white tea. Also coconut oil and manuka honey. It has a nice scent. I mean, I'm not trying to sell you this lotion or anything. I'm just saying. Yeah, so these things changed about my body and just like the way I work. And that's when like it hit me like, oh, yeah, I'm getting older and I don't want to waste the days and I don't want to not be taking care of myself the best that I possibly can, which includes allowing myself to step out of the box, but not feeling bad when someone doesn't like it or is disappointed by it or surprised by it or doesn't understand it, and not putting off feeding myself the foods that I know that my body will likely thrive from, you know, and not indulging in any of the foods that I know my body struggles more with. Because why not? Like, this is my spaceship. This is my vessel. I gotta take good care of it. So, any more feelings about procrastinating on my self-care things, like eating healthfully and decluttering my space? Any more feelings about that? No, I feel it on the outside of me now, and what it looks like is a bunch of fears. What it looks like is a bunch of fears that are like, you know? Yeah. But now I can see them, right? It's not, yeah. Well, this is exciting, and I should be able to safely get rid of a bunch of stuff now without manifesting that situation where I'll need it immediately, right? And if I do need something, whether I've gotten rid of it or not, had it or never had it or whatever, I know that I can line up with it. I know that I can, because asking you shall receive. And yeah, I don't want to live in lack and fear, and I don't want to carry on the burden of feeling like I'm not important or like I don't care about me, or that I have to live up to some sort of expectation of anyone besides myself, you know? Yeah. And for myself, it's just like, I don't even know if using expectation is the appropriate word, but I don't think it can hurt when I'm referring to it about myself, right? Yeah, I think it's an appropriate word when in reference to myself, because like my expectation is that I'll act, the way that I've consciously decided to act. And if ever I don't live up to my own expectation, all that would mean was that I got triggered. And then that's a gift. So, all right, this has been alchemizing the feelings of not living up to expectations. And I gotta go. So, I'd probably talk a lot more. I was gonna do a reading, but I'm gonna probably do it later. Stay tuned for that. If you have any preference on topic, I'm open to it, especially something that relates to this. But while I'm out and away, maybe something will pop into my head. All right. See you soon.